What's going on, everyone? I'm just a typical, average American here today to react and learn about why American tourists are being rejected around the world. Well, I mean, to be honest, I do think that many of us Americans understand that a lot of people around the world don't really like us, especially right now. But at the same time, I always kind of assumed that we were at least welcome to visit other countries, especially if we're being respectful. But this video by The Informed Travelers makes me think that that might not be true, and that Americans really aren't that welcome anymore to visit other countries. So I really want to learn more about this. So let's take a look.
Did you know that over 70% of American travelers now say they're treated differently abroad, and
What?
not in a good way? That number says more than you'd think. They're noticing colder service, awkward questions, and in some cases, outright hostility.
No, I really didn't know it was like this. I don't know too many Americans that travel, out of the country. It's actually pretty rare for Americans to leave the United States and go to other countries. So, no, this isn't really something that I've gotten to hear about. Americans who are traveling to other countries, 70% of them are saying that they feel like less welcome, like a bit of hostility. And again, given everything that's going on, I get it. I understand. I know that a lot of people around the world are not happy with the United States and what we've been doing, and our government, and Trump, and our policy decisions. And I get it. I totally get it. So I just didn't know it was quite to this level.
From protests outside the U.S. Embassy in Mexico City to a wave of anti American sentiment across Europe and beyond,
Right.
to subtle pushback in cafes and shops around the world, something has shifted. American
Wow.
tourists, once welcomed almost everywhere, are now facing a growing wave of resentment. So,
So yeah, it's like I totally get it if you don't like the American government. And even if you're angry at the American people for electing Donald Trump again. I understand that. And if you're upset with the tariffs and the trade wars and just all the stuff that's been going on for like the this whole year, I totally understand that. But uh, I didn't realize that people around the world were angry at individual Americans, because you when it's an individual visiting your country, you really have no idea like what their politics are, or what kind of person they are, or what they think. You really have no idea if they're a good or bad person. So the fact that like all Americans are just kind of disliked, that that's really sad for me to hear as an American. Obviously, that makes me feel very sad, and like kind of embarrassed for our country, that people around the world just dislike all Americans at this point, just overwhelmingly. That's really like unfortunate.
so what's really driving this backlash? And why is it getting worse in 2025? In this video, we're breaking down 6 real reasons the world is growing tired of US tourists,
Right,
and what
right.
needs to change before it gets even worse.
Right, okay. 6 reasons American tourists aren't welcome. And I feel like I know a couple of these probably.
But before we dive in, hit that like button and subscribe.
Yeah, again, this is by the Informed Travelers.
In 2025, American tourists aren't just being noticed. They're being recorded, ridiculed, and shared online.
Oh my God.
From Reddit to TikTok, tourist shaming has become a global pastime, and U.S. travelers are often the stars. Entire
Right.
threads are dedicated to moments where American visitors come across as loud, oblivious, or entitled.
Yeah, I mean, okay, I've heard of this. Like, this is a classic American stereotype that seems to be pretty true. And like, there's a reason we have a stereotype as being annoying. Like, when Americans travel to other countries, a lot of Americans don't bother to learn about the country that they're visiting. They don't learn about the culture. So Americans just behave like Americans, even though that's not really acceptable in other countries. It's a different expectations. And Americans don't really care. I get it. I totally, you know what? I totally get if somebody came to the United States and was acting in a way that was like disrespectful or Americans wouldn't like that either. So yeah, this is something that Americans are kind of known for.
One story describes an American parent at Stonehenge urging their child to go climb on the big rocks.
What?
Another recalled a woman in France asking if a group of medieval reenactors were Syrian refugees.
What?
And in a quiet spot in England, believed to be tied to the legend of King Arthur, an American tourist looked around and said, "Where's the goddamn castle?"
Yeah. Yeah, not all Americans are like that, but unfortunately there are a lot of stupid Americans that kind of embarrass all of us.
Might sound like harmless culture shock, but online, these moments fuel something deeper.
Right.
On Reddit and travel forums, locals and fellow travelers regularly vent about typical American tourists,
Right.
snapping selfies at memorial sites, demanding English-only service, or ignoring basic etiquette.
Yeah.
And all of it feeds into an old stereotype that's now gone viral again. The ugly American.
Okay. Ugly? Oh my God. We're annoying, but we're also ugly? Jeez. Oh my, what? Like ugly behavior or like ugly? We're just all ugly? Oh my, I hope that's not a thing. Yeah, especially with the internet now, like the annoying American like visiting Europe or a specific countries, like now you see that on TikTok and like Reddit and stuff. It's you actually can see it. You don't just hear about it. You like see examples.
Loud, entitled, and culturally unaware. This isn't about one rude traveler or one awkward moment. It's about a global perception that's building, one post at a time.
Right.
And in 2025, every overlooked misstep is a potential headline. For American tourists, the margin for error is shrinking,
Yeah.
and the world is no longer looking the other way.
Yeah, maybe like countries around the world were willing to put up with Americans for a long time, but now, like especially in 2025, I think a lot of people are just fed up with Americans and are like we're getting even less like wiggle room for our bad behavior.
The backlash against American tourists isn't just digital. It's happening in the streets.
Oh.
From Europe to Latin America, locals are organizing, marching, and making one thing clear.
Whoa. See, this is the kind of stuff that they don't show on the news here in the United States. They don't report about this. Our media doesn't cover this stuff. Anti-American protests.
Latin America, local
Anti-tourism protests. Like there's protests where people are in the streets saying they don't want Americans to travel there. And a lot of Americans don't even bother to know about this happening.
are organizing, marching, and making one thing clear. They've had enough.
Wow.
Not just of tourism in general, but of the strain brought on by high-spending, high-impact travelers from the U.S. In Mexico City, protesters marched through Condesa and Roma, two neighborhoods flooded with American expats and remote workers.
Oh.
Gringos, stop stealing our homes, they shouted as they
Oh.
rallied outside the U.S. Embassy.
Wow.
That same week, storefronts were vandalized and Airbnb listings were spray-painted with anti-American messages.
Oh my
What started as a
God.
housing crisis has turned into a cultural one, and American visitors are right at the center of it.
Oh
And it's
my
not just
God.
Mexico. In Spain, where over-tourism protests have become a near-weekly occurrence in cities like Barcelona and Mallorca, the U.S. Embassy issued a public alert to American citizens. The warning advised travelers to avoid large gatherings tied to anti-tourism sentiment and tensions related to the Middle East.
Wow. Yeah, I'm very aware of the anti-Trump stuff. There's a lot of that here in the United States even. I didn't know there was like literally protests at American embassies, like people shouting for American tourism to stop. Because as long as Americans like spend a lot of money in your country, isn't it kind of a good thing when Americans visit and like spend money into the local economy? Can't that be a good thing?
Two flashpoints where U.S. involvement is often front and center. These aren't just isolated outbursts. They're coordinated, emotional, and increasingly common. And when embassies start issuing warnings, it's not just travel anymore. It's reputational fallout. For many American tourists, travel is about freedom. The freedom to explore, to speak English anywhere, to wear what you want, and to experience new cultures without changing your own habits. But in 2025, that mindset is creating real friction abroad.
Yeah, this is one I'm very aware of. This problem that Americans just act like Americans everywhere we go. We're completely tone deaf.
In Kyoto, Japan, local residents in the historic Gion district, known for its geisha traditions, implemented a ban on tourists entering certain alleys.
Wow.
The reason? Tourists, including many Americans, were harassing geishas for photos, filming without permission, and ignoring posted signs.
Terrible.
After years of warnings, locals had enough. It's not an isolated case. From religious sites in Thailand to dress codes in the Middle East, stories keep surfacing about American visitors refusing to adapt.
Yeah. Yeah. And honestly, I get it. I get it. Like, I can imagine if there was like a bunch of people from one specific country that keep coming and breaking all your rules and being disrespectful of your culture, of course you're gonna ban them. And unfortunately, a lot of Americans do this. It's true. And there's proof on the internet. There's proof that Americans do this.
Tour guides report frustration with U.S. tourists who walk into temples with shoes on, wear revealing clothing in conservative areas, or treat sacred landmarks like photo ops.
Mm-hmm.
In
Yeah.
Vietnam, one American was seen wearing a t-shirt covered in guns and the words, "Freedom, the American Way," while touring a museum that documents the devastation of the U.S.-led war.
Oh my
That moment,
God.
caught on camera, quickly became a symbol of cultural disconnect. These clashes aren't always loud or aggressive. Often they're small moments of misunderstanding,
So
but
bad.
they leave lasting impressions.
So bad.
Because in many countries, the problem isn't that Americans show up. It's that they show up without listening.
Yeah,
In
right.
2025, American tourists are no longer just traveling. They're representing a country the world is rapidly losing faith in.
This is the other thing I expected. Americans have always been known for being like a little rude, disrespectful, loud, annoying. I get it. That's an old stereotype. Now there's all this new baggage that comes with being American because regardless of who you voted for, it's like all Americans represent America and therefore like Donald Trump, which a lot of people around the world don't like. That makes sense.
In Canada, just 19% of people believe the U.S. will have a positive influence on the world,
Oh my.
a historic low for America's closest ally.
Wow. I think more Americans need to like watch videos like this. More Americans need to listen to what the rest of the world is saying about us. That's one thing America is terrible at. We are isolated in such a bubble where most Americans never hear about what's going on in the rest of the world and what everyone else is thinking and saying about America. It's really a terrible thing about our culture that we're so close-minded.
In Germany, favorability has plunged since the 2024 election. And across Europe, the message is clear. More countries now view the US negatively than ever before. Even more shocking? According to the Democracy Perception Index, China is now viewed more favorably than the United States in most of the world.
Oh my God.
A reversal that would have been unthinkable just a few years ago.
This should be such a big wake-up call for Americans. Americans need to really understand, like, how much the American reputation has declined. Like, so many countries around the world really don't respect us and don't even think America is doing good in the world. Like, it's really, it's embarrassing for us, really.
These aren't just numbers, they're signals. And American tourists are caught in their shadow.
Yeah.
Today, U.S. travelers are being advised to avoid political clothing, skip controversial topics, and even soften their accents in tense environments.
Oh my God.
Some are coached on how to respond to loaded questions abroad. Others quietly claim they're Canadian, just to avoid uncomfortable conversations.
Oh no. Yeah, you know it's bad when Americans need to pretend not to be American. But has it really gotten to that point?
Because in 2025, saying you're American doesn't always spark curiosity. It can spark judgment or silence. Tourism used to be about where you're going. Now, for American visitors, it's just as much about what you're bringing with you.
Wow.
A reputation the world no longer overlooks.
Right.
One of the clearest signs that the world is rethinking American tourism, it's showing up in visa rules. For decades, U.S. passport holders enjoyed near universal access.
Right.
No paperwork, no questions, just a stamp and a smile.
Right.
But now, countries are quietly rewriting the rules.
What?
Brazil, once visa-free for Americans, has reinstated entry requirements in 2025.
What?
Across Europe, the long-delayed ETIAS system is finally moving forward, forcing Americans to apply in advance just to visit.
What? Oh my God. Yeah, I've never been to Europe. You know, I didn't know anything about this. The visiting requirements are changing. The visa requirements are changing. Which honestly, it makes sense when you realize here in the United States, we do this. We have changed our requirements for entering the United States. It's much more strict. People can search your cell phone. You can be deported from the United States for basically any reason. You can be turned away. This is what America has been doing. So the rest of the world is just doing the same. Like Americans can't even, we can't even get mad at this. Like, because we are guilty of doing this as well. We are the one that really caused all of this to ourselves.
Even the UK, one of America's oldest allies, now requires pre-authorization before entry.
Really?
These aren't just technical updates. They're symbols of something deeper. The world's trust in American travelers is slipping.
Wow.
And that shift doesn't end with a form.
Wow.
U.S. tourists are reporting longer lines, extra screening, and more probing questions.
Wow.
Not about what's in their bags, but about what their presence means.
Wow. I did not know about this.
Embassy warnings now urge Americans to avoid politically sensitive areas, not because they're unsafe for everyone, but because they might not be safe for you.
Oh my God.
Because in 2025, the borders haven't just changed on the map. They've changed in the way Americans are seen.
Right.
And for travelers used to being waved through, the hesitation says everything.
Oh my God. I mean, it sounds like depending on where you go, if you're American, you could like, is somebody gonna like punch you in the face? Like, are we in danger if we go to certain places? This is a level of like hostility that I really wasn't aware of.
For years, locals adjusted. They put up with rising prices, tourist menus, and foreign owned Airbnbs, all in the name of economic growth.
Right.
But in 2025, many feel they've reached a breaking point. In cities like Lisbon, Tulum, and Athens, entire neighborhoods were reshaped around the needs of American visitors.
Okay.
Family run cafes turned into Instagram friendly brunch spots. Markets replaced local goods with souvenirs. Long term rentals vanished, replaced by short term listings priced for remote workers from New York or LA.
Okay.
At first, it felt like opportunity. Now, it feels like erasure. Locals describe the shift as slow but relentless,
Okay.
their cities becoming more profitable as destinations than as communities.
Okay. Well, this doesn't even really sound like Americans like actively did this. Americans visiting other countries might have caused this kind of thing. Like, it's caused certain places to become like American tourist destinations where the whole place just feels like a tourist trap. Um, and inadvertently, that is caused by Americans just like nonstop going to the same places.
And while Americans may see charm, affordability, or escape, residents are seeing something else: displacement. Even those who depend on tourism feel conflicted.
Okay.
Yes, the dollars help. But the daily cost in housing, culture, and identity keeps rising.
Okay, right. Because, like I was saying, there is a benefit with Americans traveling to another country and spending money there. That helps that country, right? But at the same time, a lot of these countries feel like it's not even worth it anymore. It's like too much.
And increasingly, the frustration is directed at those who can afford to visit while locals struggle to stay.
I see.
Because what used to feel like sharing a place now feels like losing it.
I see.
And for many around the world, American tourism isn't just changing neighborhoods, it's pushing people out of them.
I see.
After everything we've seen, one thing is clear: the world isn't rejecting American tourists because they're American. It's rejecting the behaviors that come with them.
Okay.
And that means this story isn't finished.
I don't know about that. It really does sound like some of the reason Americans are being rejected is because people around the world, there's a lot of people who just don't like the American government and our politics and what we've been doing, especially this year, to other countries. And I totally get it. And that animosity like is just kind of pointed at all Americans because we all are responsible for what our country does. So yeah, I do think like people are not just upset with Americans like rude behavior, but also like American politics.
It can still change. Travelers today are being told to dress more modestly, avoid loud political conversations, and leave the flag gear at home. But those are just surface level fixes. The deeper shift is about attitude. It's about understanding that showing up with money isn't the same as showing up with respect.
Right.
That not everything needs to be in English. That not every city
Right.
wants to be a backdrop for content.
Right. So overall, Americans just need to become better tourists, more respectful, more self-aware, and realize a lot of Americans have a big problem where we think everywhere else needs to be exactly like America, and everything needs to be in English, and everything needs to be like America, and it's such a stupid mindset. It's ridiculous, and it comes from Americans being so sheltered and so closed off and like not being exposed to other countries. So we don't know how to like behave.
And that listening, really listening, goes further than any travel tip ever will.
Right.
The best travelers aren't the ones who act like guests at a resort. They're the ones who move through the world with awareness, not assumptions. In 2025, the global welcome is still there, but it's no longer unconditional.
Right.
Americans who travel thoughtfully, who adapt, who engage with humility, they're still received with kindness. Because while the world may be tired of the stereotype, it's still open to the ones willing to travel with humility.
Wow. Okay. Well, that was kind of like a nice way to end the video because I'm getting worried that Americans, even those of us who want to put in effort and understand other cultures and those of us Americans that want to be respectful and do it the right way, I'm worried that even we are being lumped in with like, oh, just another stupid, fat, ugly, dumb American. Get out of here. You know, that's my worry because while there's a lot of Americans who are exactly like this, there's a lot of Americans who are good people and like put in effort to be good people and respectful. So, yeah, this video was troubling to me, disturbing, but very, very good to watch. Like, good for me, good for Americans to be aware of, because that's the big issue. We have to be more aware of these things to adjust our behavior. So I think a lot more Americans should see videos like this, to be honest. So anyway, if you enjoyed this, feel free to give this video a like or leave a comment with your thoughts on Americans not being welcome as much anymore as tourists around the world. That'd be really interesting to hear about. And if you're interested in more videos like this, feel free to subscribe for more. And until then, thanks for watching and see you next time.